We are all set.
That was,
Oh.
that was, that's right, they tell you. People.
We're all set.
And we're recording.
We are recording.
Good afternoon and welcome to the June 24th or June 25th Tompkins County Board of Health meeting. I would like to call the meeting to order. We do have someone here for privilege of the floor. There are just a few rules for speaking. We would ask that you keep your comments to around 3 minutes. We would ask that you not use county employees by name. That you do not use lewd, slanderous, or libelous language. And that you are not able to transfer time to another person. Would you like to? If you could. No, in public, in any public forum, we're not supposed to allow people to use.
Do you want a chair?
No, it's okay.
Okay.
My name is Anthony. I represent the Holiday Inn Express in Ithaca. I'm the general or the assistant general manager. So and a part of my job is to operate the pool that we have. In the month of January, my inspector came and he realized that I wasn't pool certified as an operator, which he informed me that I needed to take the course, take the test, and to be a certified pool operator so that the pool can maintain and run properly, which I have been doing for 3 years. And I haven't had any major serious incidents, but it's the law. So I did my modules. I took the test in it was May, and I didn't pass it. Just a lot of cram stuff that I learned, like the modules from December, January, February, March. And I waited too long because I have a lot of other duties to do at the hotel. And so it's more like the formulas and stuff that back in math class, I should have paid attention in high school. But I got the letter saying that I needed to have it be passed by May. It wasn't because I didn't pass that course. So I contacted the certifier again, and I have a test July 12th. My repeat test, and that's when I will take it and most likely get through it, get my certification, and then hand it in to you guys. And there. I just wanted to let you guys know where it's in the process, and it's a timely manner, but like I said, I have so many other jobs to do there. The general manager and I work really hard to maintain a hotel with the limited staff we have since COVID. It's been difficult, but we survive, and I am trying, and I do have my test coming up, so I will make sure that it gets put to you guys. And that's about it.
Thank you very much for coming to speak with us this afternoon. We appreciate it. Do we now have a quorum? Thank you all. I know it's summertime and it's hard to get to meetings, starting to think about vacations. We do have approval of minutes. And we have 2 different meeting dates, April 23rd and May 28th meetings. Can I have a mover, please? We could do both of them together if that's all right with everyone. Okay, moved by Sue. Can I have a seconder, please? Seconded by Samara. And are there any changes or corrections or comments for the meeting minutes? Okay, all those in favor, please raise your hand.
April, but not May. I wasn't in May.
Oh, we probably should have separated them. You know what, why don't we hold that motion and we'll do them separately. Sorry about that. Thanks, Ed. If I can have a mover for the April 23rd. Moved by Ed, seconded by Sue. Any comments or questions, corrections? Okay, all those in favor, please raise your hand. Unanimous. And if I can have a mover for the May 28th meeting minutes, moved by Dr. DeLino, seconded by Sue. And all those in favor, please raise your hand. Okay. Okay, all those that would like to abstain? Okay, so that's a 3-2 vote with 2 absent or three positives, 2 abstentions. Yeah. Okay, next we'll move on to the financial summary with Jeremy Porter, our fiscal administrator.
Jeremy is not with us. The report is in the packet. I don't think we have anything additional to add, but happy to answer any questions.
Any questions for Frank on the financial summary that's in our packet? And also, if members have not had time to look at it, you can always text or email Frank if there are any questions.
Apologies, it doesn't appear that there is.
It was in the.
It may not be in the packet, apologies for that, but I can tell you there isn't anything to report out of the ordinary, but we'll make sure it's in there next month. What happened, I thought it was there,
Yeah, it doesn't link.
sorry about that.
Um,
Shawna, do you wanna jump to new business and then circle back to reports? Or do you wanna buzz through reports real quick?
yeah, let's go ahead and go to our resolution so that if anyone has to leave early, we'll have taken care of the resolutions. So we do, turn to page 2, under environmental health. Enforcement actions, we have some resolutions. Number 1, a draft resolution, EH-ENF 24-0006. Brew 22 coffee and espresso. Can I have a mover, please, to get this on the floor? Moved by Ed, seconded by Dr. Dillingham. And let's see here. Liz, would you like to speak to this resolution?
This has been on the board agenda, I think, a couple of months, and I believe was discussed some last month. Here, there's the due date for the penalty is now August 15th, 2024. There's been some changes to the other dates due to the changes in the board, when the board can approve the resolution, and the proposed penalty is $8,700.
The reason it came back to the board was there was question from the board about how we arrived at the 8,700. Could you explain that?
So they had a number of kind of standard violations or more common violations for missing samples and so they were so typically we find them $500 for each of those. Then they also had and also for like failure to notify us. There was also the issue with this operator that they submitted falsified laboratory reports. And so we did pose a penalty of $2,000 is included in this penalty for that. Because that was a rather egregious thing. So I think that's the maximum that we can fine somebody for a specific violation, and that's under the state code, I believe. And so all of those together came up to $8,700. It's not the max that we could fine them. That was our approach, pretty standard for most of the things, but then an additional penalty because of the falsified laboratory reports.
Any questions or comments?
I just had a question because initially I was just seeing that the initial penalties came in 2020, 2021, and then I don't see that any other penalties kind of came up throughout that period of time, and I was just kind of wondering about this.
So some of that, I think, is we didn't take a formal enforcement action. Are you referring to the case summary?
Yeah,
That's
yeah,
what I'm looking at. So that
Yeah,
it's,
yeah, that's why I
been
was.
inconsistent, difficult for a while with getting samples.
Any other questions or comments?
Since that time, they're pretty much doing what they need to do.
At
Looks
this
like-
point, I believe so.
I guess, in follow to my first question is, were they aware that they were approving potential fees, penalties, not fees, penalties?
That's standard part of our notifications.
Okay.
That they're required to.
Okay.
Typically, we do a lot of outreach to the operators.
I think there's probably just concern because that's a lot of money for small business. Are they eligible for a payment plan?
Anybody's eligible for a payment. We did have significant concerns, with the restaurants that was not operating their water system correctly and then did submit falsified history.
Any other questions or comments? You ready to vote for this? All those in favor, please raise your hand. Okay, that's unanimous. Okay. Our next draft resolution is EH-ENF 24-0003. Henshaw Village MHP violation of Part 17 and Subpart 5-1 of the New York State Sanitary Code. Can I have a mover, please? Moved by Smith. Have a seconder, seconded by Adam. Yeah, would you like to speak to this, please?
So the stipulation on this one went through various modifications back and forth with the with Cook Properties and CNY and PHS. But they did end up signing, we agreed, they agreed, so there is a signed stipulation that includes all of the things they have submitted, most of the requirements with the deadline. We have extended the proposed penalty of $1,500 to August 15th to accommodate potential approval at today's meeting.
Any questions or comments for Liz? Those in favor, please raise your hand. This is a draft resolution EH-ENF 24-0008. DPW Ithaca violations of subparts 14-1 of the New York State Sanitary Code. Can I have a mover, please? Moved by Ed, seconded by Dr. Delino. And can you speak to this?
This is the first time this has been before the board. It has a proposed penalty of $400. And the main concern was they weren't providing food thermometers. And they were cooking plus some other additional things that were included from the inspection.
Questions or comments? All those in favor, please raise your hand. Unanimous. Thank you. Boy, we're gonna have to tell Gina how boring our meetings are without her. Hey, another resolution, draft resolution EH-ENF 24-0009. Holiday Inn Express Pool, violations of Board of Health orders and subpart 6-1 of the New York State Sanitary Code. And a mover, please. Moved by Sarah. And seconder, seconded by Susan.
So this was previously brought there, the pool was previously brought to the board, so they complied with all of the requirements except for getting the certified pool operator. He spoke with you just a few minutes ago. So we have proposed a penalty of $250 to August 15th, plus an additional $250 if he does not submit his pool certification. So that's the main thing. There were inspections of the pool was being operated correctly. So that was part of our rationale in doing the kind of phased penalty or sort of contingent.
you know how often the test is offered?
Sorry, I'm getting rabies and the flu thing mixed up. I can't remember whether this is now offered online, but he's just planning to retake the test,
Mhm.
right? He just, I think, feels like he needs to do an additional review. But this did accommodate taking the test
Oh,
with the deadlines.
I thought he took it and failed it.
So, but he could, if he needs to do it again, right, there are options available for that. So hopefully he'll be able to just retake the test and comply with the requirements. There was a lot of effort put into reaching out to him. That's responses.
Any other questions and comments? All those in favor, please raise your hand. It's unanimous. Thank you very much. Next, let's go ahead and move on to administration. EH refund policy. Frank.
Yes, sorry. So we did talk about this at the previous meeting, but I know there's some new folks in the room, so I don't know, Liz, do you want to give an overview of this real quick?
So this is, what we're doing with the refund policy was established a while ago, and we have a $25 processing fee that is often waived or something for various reasons, and so we just feel like it is easier administratively. It's not worth the hassle of applying this $25 processing fee to a refund, so we would like to keep the policy in place, except for removing that fee from it. We don't get that many where we're actually doing this, charging $25 anyway a year.
So we do need a motion from the board to approve the amended policy.
A motion, Dr. Delino, seconded by Dr. Capel. Sorry, I was being informal with you, Ed.
Good.
And is there any other comment? Okay, all those in favor? Please raise your hand. Okay, that's unanimous. Thank you. Next is environmental health fees 2025.
So similarly, we did talk about this at the May meeting, but there are new folks in the room. It would be helpful if we could quickly go over our
I can, we'll stumble through things.
changes, and we would also ask the board to approve the fee schedule.
They don't approve, the fees are actually approved as part of the budget. This is for their information. So it's a chance to offer questions, comments, if any changes, you know.
It also,
changes to-
yeah, good.
So one thing I'd like to point out is we did realize that there were some mistakes in the cover memo for the estimated, going to summarize the estimated revenue on that first page. So that has been revised. I don't have the old copy in front of me, but the memo that says revised, dated June 13th. Estimates for our operating fees, plan review fees, and fines and other penalties, total revenue. So the main changes that we are doing to our fees is we had taken away the discount for on-site wastewater treatment system replacement permits that were done by an engineer. It was never used, and it was anyway, so that was taken away, and then we started getting an engineer doing these on his own without us referring to an engineer, just doing them on their own. So we are adding that fee back in, a discount if people go directly to an engineer for their replacement systems. And then we're increasing the plan review fee for the larger systems, just based on the review of the estimated time we're spending on this. And then there's the application renewal. You can renew an application, you can renew a permit. So right now, there is we have the discretion to waive a permit, you know, depending on the circumstances of the individual. We would like to have that same discretion for the application fee. So we've added that to our fee schedule as well. So those are the main changes to our fee fees.
Thank you for listening to our feedback.
Certainly.
Any questions or comments?
Then the last thing is a waiver request. Did you wanna?
Yes, so the waiver request for 175 Williams Glen Road, that's in the town of Ithaca. Both our local sanitary, I think it's local. Sanitary code for us and for the town of Ithaca does not allow people to put in an on-site wastewater treatment system if they can connect to a municipal system. This place is located close to a municipal system, but because of the complications at the site, it was gonna be extremely expensive. I think the estimates were in the neighborhood of $70,000, $80,000. So we have, we support waiving that requirement. In this case, the town of Ithaca has already granted their waiver.
Any questions or comments?
You need a motion on that, correct?
We need an official approval.
Okay.
The board is the one who has to.
Can I have a motion for the waiver request for 175 Williams Glen Road? Moved by Susan. Can I have a seconder, please? Seconded by Dr. DeLima. And any questions or comments from board members? Okay, all those in favor, please raise your hand. Unanimous. Thank you, Liz. Now let's go back to page 1 and we'll pick up the medical director's report. Dr. Slater.
Good afternoon. I don't have anything to add. Fortunately, to that report, there haven't been any other significant cases of avian influenza, fortunately, and the New York State situation has not changed. In terms of recent activity, I was at Rotary in Ithaca and did a presentation about harm reduction as a concept in public health strategy, and they received a few questions. One question was regarding what was going to happen with the outpatient detoxification facility on Triphammer. And my statement to them was that it's a matter of great concern. There is a great deal of effort being put forth to see that come to fruition, and that my off the cuff assessment was, I think what's going to happen, because I know the effort being put into it. And then there was a question about CARS and its relationship to harm reduction. And I thought it was well received by the folks there. So I think it's a conversation that we can have more generally in the community, because harm reduction is often subject to misunderstanding. And so I'm attempting, and by doing these, to give the public more of a general understanding of the concept and how it fits in with trying to deal with not only with overdoses, but with cannabis issues and other things we face.
Any questions or comments for Dr. Tlaibel? Thank you. Next is the Commissioner shared report, Frank Rupa.
Sure, just one thing to add, budget, we're in the midst of budget season, and as is usually the case, our submittal of the budget is gonna fall between board meetings. So we're, just for informational purposes, first of all, the Board of Health doesn't have jurisdiction over the budget, that's the legislature, but you do obviously have policy jurisdiction, and so, as we all know, money does influence policy in the work that we do. So we'd like to give kind of a general update of what we're doing, what we're expecting to see with the budget for you all, for you just so your awareness, This year, the county administrator has directed us to submit two budgets. First was a maintenance of effort budget, which was already due last week. So we have submitted that budget into the system. We are now working on a 5% reduction budget that is due for July 8th, I believe. So next Friday, not this Friday, the following Friday. That 5% is only on the county portion of our budget, so it's not the totality of our budget. I think it is about $300,000 that we have to find for that process. The good news is that it's not going to affect any filled positions or any active programs. We have two community health nurse positions, one in CHS, Community Health Services, Rachel's group, and one in Jess's group, Children's Special Care Needs, that have been empty for some time. Rachel's more because of recruiting, Jess's more because of caseload needs. We were holding it vacant because we didn't have the demand for those. So those two positions are going to take up much of what needs to be reduced. So it is a position reduction, but they are vacant positions and they are not ones that we were expecting to fill in the near term. So the rest that we need to find will come from operational lines like travel training and program expense and those kinds of things that we'll be able to make some adjustments on. So generally speaking, even with the reduction budget, it should not impact any existing staff and or any existing program that we have going. So that will get submitted on July 8th. The process then is our scheduled meeting is the end of July with the county administrator to go through what we've submitted. And then she submits her budget to the legislature, usually the beginning of September. And then they begin their process of having all the departments report and go through their determinations with a final budget usually being approved in November. So that's the process. That's where we are. Really is not any policy implications from this. It is a reduction in FTE for the department, but it's the least impactful reduction that we could achieve. So that's really the juxta of the budget conversation from us. Certainly once it's submitted, if anyone wants more detail, we can certainly share that with you. It doesn't become public until the county administrator submits her budget to the legislature. Once it's there, it'll be available for anyone to see on the website. But as board members, if you have specific questions or want to see more detail about anything, we'd be happy to go over that with you. So that's all I have by way of updates.
Thank you, Frank. Any questions or comments for Frank? Thank you. Next, community health, Rachel.
I don't have anything to add to my written report.
Okay, thank you. Any questions on Rachel's report? Next is the health promotion program. Samantha?
I did just want to introduce Tamari is on Zoom, and she's one of our community health workers who joined our team, and she's been working on training and learning about the grant that she's hired under the New York State PITCH program, which is Perinatal and Infant Community Health Collaborative. So yeah, so she's been getting out in the community though, and then we'll start having our own caseload probably in the next couple months. And then also Catherine Gaddy has joined us as a summer intern. She is going into her second year at Cornell, at the Cornell PH program. And she is primarily working on lead poisoning prevention this summer. So maybe she'll stay on into the fall when courses start up, but it's great to have her this summer. So she's sitting in too. And then lastly, I just wanted to mention that with the rounding out of our COVID-19 funding, we are ramping up in a big way by having a mural painted downtown this week, actually. And so if anyone is downtown, it's going to be along the Oxford Evening Wall on Albany Street. The artists are in town, they're lovely, nice to meet, and so if you walk by, they're probably out there today and through the rest of the week. And the mural is really meant to commemorate those we lost in the community during the pandemic, and really demonstrate the resilience and strength of our community and going through that experience, the importance of connection, relationships with any public health emergency too. And then specifically to highlight the role of immunization and the importance of that in preventing disease. So yeah, so please check it out, and we'll let the board know if there's more of a unveiling of the mural.
Yeah. And welcome to the two new people to Tompkins. Any questions for Samantha? Okay. Next, we have children with special care needs. Jessica?
All I have to add is that the legislature passed our resolution last week for the OTR funds fees differently. So we will be offering provider stipends, hopefully to retain, possibly recruit providers in our EI program. So we're working on creating contracts for those providers. And we're still working on onboarding our new speech language pathologist, who is going to be starting on July 22nd.
That's great news. Any questions for Jessica? Comments?
I noticed in your report, you talked about partnering with other counties in Syracuse for services. Is that something that you've done before?
So I can't speak historically
Yeah.
because I am newer, but we reached out to Children's Therapy Network, which is not based in our area, to help provide our core evaluation to our EI program. And they were willing to come here, offer us one day. I think it was kind of like a test run for everyone. They seemed to really enjoy the process. They thought we were very helpful. Our service coordinators were helpful. And we're hoping to have them back as one day a month moving forward.
Okay, great.
So
Any other questions or comments? Next, environmental health. Elizabeth.
The only thing I'd like to add is that the city submitted a final report, final work plan in response to the notice of violation that we had issued for part of the encampment area. And then DEC, right after they submitted that, DEC got comments to them, so they submitted a revised report. And then I was out for a bit. So I have reviewed the report and approved it. And I provided hard copies. You have hard copies in front of you. There's 3 phases to the report. I think one was like putting up, one was like fencing, and the other phase 1, I think, was fencing, and phase 2 was the actual cleanup, which were done concurrently and have pretty much been completed according to the email I've seen. And then the 3rd phase is actually cleaning up the area along the embankment where things have been pushed over the edge or disposed of. And that has to receive permits from New York State DEC, and also needs to be done when the water levels are low. So that work is planned for the fall, November-ish, I think. So we had a FOIL request for the report when it was in draft form, which we did not release the draft report, but so I expect that we will be releasing the final report soon. That's up.
So is this confidential still?
No, this has been approved and it's final, so it is not confidential. I expect that Aaron Murphy will be sending it out to the reporter that asked for it previously very soon.
I guess the question I have is for people that were living in these areas, where have they moved to?
So I know that the people who were there were before we my recollection is right, that before we even issued the notice of the official notice of violation, the word got out that we were going to. And so outreach workers and others were in contact with the people there. And so they had moved before the city, like by the time the city started posting it to take, you know, to give them notice to move, there was nobody there. So some of them moved to other areas in that general area. Some of those may have moved other places by now, since other opportunities have opened up for them. But there wasn't a formal tracking of where they went. All I know is that they was surprised that they were already gone by the time the city started posting. They post, they give notice, right? And outreach workers, they try to coordinate with outreach workers when there are somebody there, kind of consistent with the city's draft, what it's called, implementation plan or something like that. That they've been working under when other encampments have popped up.
Do we know what outreach workers, where they were from?
No.
Okay. Because we don't
And-
have any outreach workers right now.
I think we're using the outreach worker term very broadly to
Okay,
include
yes.
the many people that go out there and work with the homeless folks. But correct, we don't currently have any under the county plan, the county program.
So it would have
So I
been
think
like
these were
reach or
more
OAR
Or more informal.
Okay.
I don't, right.
or second one.
Could be GSS too.
Well, kudos to the nonprofits that have stepped up and helped with the transition. Hopefully the county can help out at some point soon. Any questions or comments?
Are there plans at some point to focus on another area after this? I mean, I got the impression that this was kind of a trial run to see how things go with this.
So I plan to meet with the city at some point over the summer to discuss things with them, but the information that I've received is they do have that new policy, and I'm sorry, I can't remember the exact draft policy. And that seems to be, people have been moved, they've been moving people in response to complaints and stuff, so I'm not, you know, if there aren't new areas, we'll need to assess the situation and see if there is a need for any additional action.
I have a question about the end of the report where we talk about prevention of future encampments and debris accumulations. Can you talk a little bit more about this process and understanding this is Board of Health, this is not the city or county administration, but I'm just curious about the process. It will be monitored, and then when it resumes, because eventually people will return, because how many years has the encampment been there, like, what is the process? And if it's not you, anyone else that could talk about what the process would look like?
So the plan that they proposed, they are putting up a fence and putting it as close as possible to the railroad bridge. I forget what the other end of it is, so that it is difficult for people to get back into that area. People can go over fences or under or whatever, but it's hard to bring in things like shopping carts or other large items. So that should discourage, the hope is that should discourage things, and it has so far. The bulk of the property is owned by the railroad, who has a physical presence there and is aware of if anything is going on that property. So I think that is a key component. The city and the railroad work closely together. And then here is the name of the report. I kept trying to remember that encampment response protocol is what the city will use in any area if people are found camping where they should not be.
And I'll just expand on my question, because I think what I'm trying to understand is if they monitor and there is someone there, are they gonna be arrested? Is it gonna be, there's a law enforcement? Because that brings, once again, I know this is a Board of Health, but it brings a lot of concerns that sometimes we just move these individuals through the system. They go to the law enforcement, and then they go to the healthcare, and then they end up there, and we repeat this cycle multiple times through the years. So I'm just trying to understand here if there's any other different thinking when we talk about enforcing.
So I haven't looked at the exact encampment response protocol in detail. recently, but the general process is, I think that they give a 96-hour notice. And they are working with outreach workers and other people who will be working with the people that are in the area where they don't want them to be. So they try to get them through that process to leave the area, either get housing if that is available, or move to another an acceptable spot through the outreach workers, so that and
The outreach workers are CBOs, like from CBOs, community-based organizations.
primarily, yeah.
And I think there's a different conversation that's happening. County Administrator Lisa Holmes, myself, Frank's been part of the conversation, Kit Caphart, and Dr. Stallone. We've all been on a few calls before talking about what's happening, because there's definitely a group of maybe 20 people that were all having a really hard time housing. And I know that some of them land at the hospital and they don't always have a medical reason to be there. Some of them land in our shelters and it's not a good fit. And so that's the probably biggest issue that I can't get sleep on. Because, you know, nothing that we do, what we're doing right now isn't working. And so we continue to have those conversations and talking about, you know, is it a different shelter? Is it another motel? Is it, you know, services that they might or might not want to engage with? So stay tuned. But we start having those conversations.
Are,
Yeah.
it's been many, many years, and I watched at a different level, but I watched conversations that have been had, but I'm glad
Yeah.
that the conversation continues.
Any other questions for Liz or comments? Okay. Any other business today? Can I have a motion to adjourn, please? By Susan, seconded by Sarah, and all those in favor?
December, July meeting.
I think we were gonna try to not have a July meeting unless there's something.
We have, okay, it was helpful if we know, because we are having to work around whether there's a July deadline for Board of Health.
We would like to say no, there is not a July meeting, so unless there's something that absolutely has to come forward, we should plan for not having a July meeting. Because we're struggling to get quorum now.
Okay, everyone.
All right.